American survey too really, as I said, starts with the 1860s. Originally and principally, we were supposed, or we are really determined to start with people like Whitman. But of course, as introduction to this, there is this what we call enlightenment, or maybe really romanticism earlier on, because as I said, the people like Melville and Edgar Allan Poe. Allan Poe, I don't know if you have the people I taught this. I gave them examples of Edgar Allan Poe, his short stories, and some of his poems really were excellent examples of that. But here we see the American scene, the American life, the American atmosphere was really undergoing a lot of changes, especially because of the question of the race and the question of really slavery, because people were always worried about this, and that's why, of course, the war, as you know, started really because of slavery and the slave situation. So, if you like, here the key point we can talk about this is really we say the transformation in American society. The American nation was being really transformed heavily into, many of them, into rejecting slavery, and many others. That's why we had, I should say, and actually, funny enough, we are still having today, people who are still in terrible, if you like, situation concerning slavery and race and racism, really, and the racial question, especially as you can see, maybe in modern America today. Even in that situation, you can see this. But you see, the Civil War, as I said, which went on for nearly 5 years, and many people killed, because people wanted to say, we no longer want slaves. And the people in the South, they said, no, we want slaves, we need slaves. Because people in the South were farmers, and they needed workers in the farms. So that's why they needed to keep slavery. So that's why people, went, or the whole nation really was going under this, heavy pressure to change the mood towards more openness, more freedom, more, if you like, acceptance, more tolerance, and happy life, if you like. And happy life not only for the white man, but for everybody, for black and for natives. And of course, we know we have so many examples of that. And that's why all this paved the way for writers to talk about this in so many ways. Now, the example I really wanted to start with, and my colleague, Dr. Suzanne, did not, because she's the coordinator, did not sort of agree with me, because I really wanted to give you something by Melville. Herman Melville, his great book, his great novel called Moby Dick. Moby Dick, which is about, this big whale. And I don't know if you've heard of the story, but really it's the story of Ahab, the main character called Ahab, and Ishmael. And the way Melville really is saying here, he's talking about his own, if you like, individuality and about spirituality, and about the whole concept of man and determination and life and freedom and man and so on. Really, Melville was, in his own imaginative way, was trying to talk about life and modern life in a very strange way, in a very far-fetched, metaphorical way, through this journey of this man, the whaler, who wanted to chase this big fish, or this big whale called Moby, and he called it Moby Dick. And it's about the white whale, you know? So the whole novel is written in 1850s, just before 1850s, just before the Civil War. And really, this was an example of how people were mixed up, were in a way unhappy about what to do concerning, as I said, the whole question of racism and race and slavery, and looking at these poor Africans, poor workers who were brought from Africa as terrible slaves. And we shall see examples from the examples I mentioned to you about that. Now, we have so many, really here in my notes, here if I show you the example, and if I share this with you, let me see if I can share it with you. It's really an amazing look at the example here. Can you see the screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Really, this woman, Harriet Beecher Stowe, to me, I think, again, I wanted to give this novel to you as an example of absolute important question of how people felt during this time. Notice the novel was published 1852, the same time of Moby Dick. And as you can see, the same time before the Civil War. And Harriet Beecher Stowe is a white woman, absolutely white woman, important writer. And she wrote this big, absolutely big novel called Uncle Tom's Cabin, or Life Among the Lowly. Lowly. You know, really this novel is a huge novel. Now, it's far, to me, I think it's better than Mark Twain's Huckleberry Finn, because Huckleberry Finn really talks more about white man and the way the white man looked at the slaves, right? But this one here, Uncle Tom's Cabin, really, as you can see from the images, and this is the novel, I had all this novel and I really wanted to give it to you, but I thought it's too much, maybe you'll be angry with me. So, luckily, Dr. Suzanne said, no, we can't include these people because they were published before 1865. And I said, okay, I mean, we can't give you everything. Anyway, because again, of the nature of the service, of the course, it's called survey, so we don't give details, but just to give you samples, just to have a look, to see this is what happens, and this is what was really happening there. So this novel called Uncle Tom's Cabin really talks, again, exactly about a slave called Tom. And, you know, the writer called him Uncle Tom. And cabin, of course, is his house. And house, really, for Tom, is only a cabin, because slaves were not given houses. They were given smaller cubicles, really cubicles, like a telephone booth. You know, telephone booth, which is very tiny, maybe 2 meters wide, 2 meters, you know, 2 by 2, which is a very tiny room, really. And that's why it's called cabin. You know, they call it cabin to mean it's a very tiny house, very tiny room. As we shall see in the examples we have by Booker Washington, he talks about that. But Harriet Beecher Stowe, again, as a white woman, talked about this in a huge novel called Uncle Tom's Cabin. Is, as you can see here, the way I copied this from the net. As you can see, it's here on this paging is 322. Now, in the original, it was far more than that. But the idea I want to say to you, because here, notice they say Jim Crow. Notice here in this page, Jim Crow. And this is the same. Sorry, let me drink something because I'm shouting a lot. You're free to drink anything, by the way. Okay. Now, the story I'm saying here really is just as a background to tell you how people were. You know, I said this to people before. I don't know if I said this to you, and I will repeat this. I will repeat this many times, maybe to everybody. People in a way are ambivalent, or really I should say not ambivalent, but really schizophrenic in a way, meaning they are not sure exactly what. Really, that's what I mean here by you know, ambivalent, meaning they want this, but at the same time they don't want it. They hate you, but they love you. You know, how can you do that? You understand?
Yes.
So this question of really Beecher Stowe, Uncle Tom's Cabin, is an important, absolutely important background of a text written completely about slavery and about a slave and the misery of slavery and the way white people looked at them. But it's more dedicated to this man, as she called him, Uncle Tom. Now, again, to go back to my friend Whitman, really is another way. Whitman, remember, Whitman, sorry, not Whitman, I should say Melville. I'm sorry, Melville, Herman Melville, in his novel Moby Dick, he was more philosophical. Really, he was more philosophical, more maybe political, maybe more ideological. He was more metaphorical. He did not say it clearly about how people are really determined to do things in such, even in such a tragic way. Because Moby Dick, Ahab, you know, nearly lost his life at the end of the day, of course. It was, at the end, really, it is a tragedy, really, to see how the story ended. But as I said here, we can't really think of this as maybe an example of maybe romanticism, an example of really Renaissance, an example of maybe openness, an example of literariness, and so on. And this is a very nice way to see how the American scene before during this time, how people really were transforming, they were developing, how even development in society, in trade, in building railroads, in building really all this transcendental even. This transcendental thing really happened everywhere in America at that time. Now, we can see here so many important things in this introduction in the book. Of course, I can't read everything for you here, but you see what I'm saying, that people started to look at life in a different way. Farmers, you know, urban people, and manufacturers, legislators, businessmen, industry, and so on. So people really were trying to change and to transform to a better thing. As I said, all this happening just before the Civil War, which started, as you can see, in 1865. Now, this transformation, as I said, really meant transforming many farmers. Again, farmers, that is again to go back to the slave business and slavery. Again, the white man, now they wanted to, or they had to, they were forced to work in the field. Originally, white men never, always they had slaves to work for them. But because of this, this transformation really meant a lot of difficulty and a lot of hardship to people. Now, if you like, we have here this question really meant that many writers started to talk about that. There is here, I think, maybe one or two sentences I could read for you here. Notice, let me read. The rapid transcendental settlement and new urban industrial conditions summarized above had a significant impact on the literature of the time. New themes, new forms, new subjects, new regions, new authors, and new audiences all emerged in the half century before the Civil War. You see, I'm saying here, this transformation really meant a lot. As I said, this whole boiling up and, as I say, transformation really built up towards the explosion, which is the Civil War at the end. And that's why we had people like this, you know, talking about that. The examples we shall see, really, they talk about the Civil War. Most of the examples I will show you, mainly the first example, Walt Whitman, how he talks about that. You can see this as an example of the effect of the Civil War, especially, you know, we had the president of the United States at that time, Abraham Lincoln. He was assassinated. Really, he was assassinated as a result of the war, or at the end of the war. Now, here, if you like, before the Civil War, if you like, before the Civil War, in fiction and in novels, and, you know, novels, and not really, they did not mention a lot the question of really racism or the question of slavery as they did after the Civil War. And that's why here we have a nice sentence. Maybe again, I will read this for you. In fiction, characters rarely represented before the Civil War became familiar figures. Industrial workers and rural poor, ambition businessmen, hard leaders, and warrants, and etc., etc. To talk here about, you know, social groups, women, and African, native, ethnic minorities, immigrants, everything, all wrote for publication. So that's why here you can see we have changes in society. Not only the white man who was able to print and to write, everybody really started or participated in this business of writing. So that's why this is a huge importance, and this is part of what we call really transformation and change. And that's why all these writings reflected these. And that's why here we talk about the forms, that's the novel, the short story, the poetry and play, drama, etc. All of them really prospered and started to talk, if you like, in general about American life and so on. So the question of, again here, really realism and naturalism, I think this is very important. And I think the examples I've said, I've said to you before, really reflect this question of realism, because talking about reality. Now, Moby Dick and Uncle Tom's Cabin. Moby Dick, yes, it's a fisherman going to sea, and the way he fought in the sea against the whale and the whaling business, because Americans mostly really spend time and horrible time at sea, because they want to, as you know, find ways of life. So this is part of reality, part of absolute reality, and reflecting nature as it is, real life as it is. And that's why we say naturalism. It doesn't mean romanticism in a sense. It means going back to real life in many ways. So the term, let me read here maybe for you one thing. The two great literary movements of the late 19th century were realism and naturalism. The term realism refers to the movement, a movement in England, in English, European, and American literature that gathered force from 1830s to the end of the 19th century. Now, the idea realism, if you know something about British literature, maybe in British literature 2 or British literature 3, we talk about Victorian life, how the industrial, it's the same time. In England we had the Victorian time, we have people writing at that time, Dickens, George Eliot, like Thomas Hardy, like Trollope, like people like those who were reflecting, absolutely reflecting the poverty, the misery of Victorian England. The same thing in America. They were reflecting about the horrible conditions under which American people were struggling to survive, and also struggling with a real problem, which is racism, the clashes between blacks and whites. And really, this is the whole even more problematic idea. So we have this in England, and I think we have it in the same way in America. And I think we have all these examples about reality, absolute reality, to talk about how life really emerged in every sense. And you can see here realist writers really used and believed in the truth, in the power of the language, and power of how they represent reality, and how they reflect things, everything in their own writings. They want people to believe as truth, to see things as real, and to accept it as real. Not to say this is fiction. They want people to really believe it. And writers of fiction, they want to say, hey, look, this is reality. This is how people were maybe suffering and so on. So that's why this was a huge issue, which what I say here, realism and naturalism. And in this introduction here in this book, really, it's a lot of details. Of course, we don't want to talk about that, especially the question of, in England, especially to go back to realism, especially the effect of the Industrial Revolution, when Marx and Engels were writing about the Industrial Revolution and about the workers, the problems of the workers, and the fight between the poor, the rich, and the poor, and so on. And that's why even Darwin, even terrible Darwin, Charles Darwin, when he wrote about, the question of the origin of species, when he was talking about man being like apes, man descended from apes and so on, which is really terrible to say. So the idea here we want to say that this question of, reality and everything to be believed, to be accepted as truth, as authoritative, and to feel for it, to really think that it's part of you, that's the idea which dominated the scene before the Civil War, before the writers we are going to study in this course. Are you following, girls? Hello?
Yes, yes, yes.
Are you still there? I know you. I still have 20 people there, which is good. I'm very happy with you. Really, you are nice people. So here we have so many really examples. And again, to mention one thing about regional. Again, the regional means the region, to talk about your own area. And this regionalism is to do with Americanism, to say that we have our own special thing, which is the regional aspect of many American really life. And we have so many good examples of that. And I will start, as I said, with Walt Whitman. Really, Walt Whitman here, of course, how he expressed this to some extent in his own, in the two poems we have. In the two poems we have, we're going to study them together, inshallah, next time. Okay? Are you fine and following? Can I take attendance with you, boys and girls?
Okay, you can.
Can you? Yeah. If I read people's names, can you just say yes? Is that possible? Yeah, Azahra?
Yes.
Arrayan?
Yes.
Uthman?
Yes.
Munira Abdullah?
Yes.
Marwa?
Yes.
Very good. Sarah?
Yes.
Sarah Hmayyad Al-Harasi. I know you from last term, isn't it? You?
Not last term, the term before.
Really? Zumurrud?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Zumurrud. Did I teach you last term, Zumurrud?
Last year.
Last year, not last term. Wa'ad?
Yes.
Wafa?
Yes.
Wafa Salim? Wafa Salim? Yeah. Shayma Ibrahim?
Yes.
Iman Khalid?
Yes.
Hajar Mahfoud?
Yes.
Very good. Shayma Hmayed al-Makhmari.
Yes.
Kaltham, I remember Kaltham from last term, correct? Kaltham, she's not here. Anwar, Anwar, Anwar. I know these people from last time. I don't know where are they now. Maram, Maram al-Jabari, huh? Zainab Rashid, Zainab.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, Afrah,
Yes.
Maria al-Hattali, Maria, Khulud Khalid, Khulud,
Yes. Yes, doctor.
you're there? Maybe asleep, huh? Tariq, Tariq. So Tariq is not here, Maria is not here, Anwar not here, Kaltham not here, absent. Okay, right. Anyone else? Okay. Now, please, ladies and gentlemen, please, if you have not yet joined the
Doctor, someone's writing he is here.
someone what?
Write in the chat his attendance.
Oh, I see. But who's that? I don't have any. Yeah, doctor, who's this? From iPhone. Who's iPhone? Who's this iPhone?
It's Khulud. She said, it's Khulud.
Oh, I see.
No, there's someone else is writing there.
Somebody called
It's Anwar.
from iPhone to everyone. Anwar is iPhone? Okay.
Maria.
Anwar and
Maria.
Maria also.
Yeah. Well, please write your name so I can. Anwar, you are here? Good. Yeah, I remember maybe I taught you Anwar before, did I? Is it the same Anwar I had before? Hello? You can't speak? Maybe there's a problem with her microphone. Anyway, please join the WhatsApp group because it's very useful for us. Later on, it's going to be really very useful. And for the boys, where is the boy? I have one boy who, Uthman. And
Yes.
Uthman and
I'm hearing you.
yeah, Uthman, please make a group for you and your friend.
Tariq, I think Tariq.
You and Tariq, okay? And add me to.
No need group, doctor. We
Huh?
are only two.
Yeah, you can, both of you and me, put me, write my number, please, now if you want. So you can create a group for boys.
Okay.
Write the number, please. 722.
Wait. I will bring pen.
Yeah. Let me write my number in the chat, okay? You can see it in the chat. Uthman.
You have sent it in the email, doctor.
I know, but some people, maybe they don't read emails or I don't know.
Hello.
Oh,
Yes, doctor.
6-4. Listen,
Give me your.
I gave you, I gave, yeah, it's here in my chat, 7227. Look at it in the chat, 7227-6486. This is my Omani number for the WhatsApp. Add me and you and your friend, okay?
Who is my friend? I don't know Tariq.
I don't know Tariq. I don't know him either. But I will send him. I will send him my number so he can join us.
Okay, send him an email and tell him to give you.
Listen, Uthman. Make the group. Add me to it, and then I will send Tariq to join.
Inshallah.
Okay.
Inshallah.
All right. Right. Any question? Anything? Any question, girls? Any ideas? Are you okay? Are you angry with me or happy or what?
Everything.
Yes, happy, Doctor.
Wallahi. Yeah, okay. I will, again, as I said, I will post this recording on Moodle. You want to come back to it, you can listen to it. You can see me talking, discussing as usual, okay? Really, it's going to be